Hello everyone, welcome back to the class. So for this week and to next week, the first half of next week, we are going to read the chapters of the I will call pre-Redcliffe and also watch the movie Redcliffe 1. So for this week, you don't need to make any online post or response because I want you to focusing on your close reading assignment and your peer review. And the post and response will be for next Monday. So you have plenty of time to read the novel and watch the movie, and also pay attention to the lecture video as I upload it like this. Okay, so now we are getting into the big fight, which I was called the Redcliffe. But before we actually moving onto the fight, we have a lot of preparation work to do. So the three characters I put it here. The first is Kong Ming or Zhuge Liang, the advisor of Xuan De, and the second one is Cao Cao, and the last one is Zhou Yu or Zhou Gongjing, actually the general for the Wu Kingdom. So basically, Redcliffe is just one of the big fights where the three kingdoms actually gathered together and each of them perform a very important role in this stage. For the very first time in this whole story. So the Redcliffe fight is very important. So a little bit about the basic plot from chapter 41 to 44, 45. So first, what happened in the Wei team, in Cao Cao's team, is that Cao Cao launched that huge invasion and tried to chase down Xuan De, and in fact chase him to flee further south away. And Cao Cao is now trying to lead an even bigger invader to cross the Great River and to attack on the Wu Kingdom and the Shu Kingdom as well. And then what happened to the Shu team, the Xuan De's team or Liu Bei's team? So first, Liu Bei flee with a great group of civilians and also several generals. So basically, the whole plot for the Shu team in chapter 41 to chapter 44 is they are always fleeing from one place to another place and recruiting actually a lot of civilians along the way, which make their moving even more slower. And then one very important general eventually appears in the story, that is Zhao Zulu, who came to rescue Liu Bei's mistress and his only son. And then we actually see some fighting by Zhang Fei. Zhang Fei, I think it's the first time in the novel he took such a huge role and performed a very important fight against Cao Cao. And we see some supernatural power of Zhang Fei, of his a loud sound that can scare everyone in Cao Cao's team and make them try to retreat. And lastly, what happened in the Wu team is that Zhuge Liang or Kong Ming, the advisor of Xuan De, plus Lu Su, which is a scholar official from the Wu team, they too have one single goal, that is to defeat Cao Cao. So they kind of collaborated and goes to the Wu Kingdom trying to convince the king of the Wu Kingdom, Sun Quan, and his first general, the biggest general, Zhou Yu, to fight against Cao Cao. So basically, that is what happened in this chapter 41 to chapter 44, and also what happened in the movie Redcliffe 1. So a little bit about how the geographical movement is going on. So basically, you can see Xuan De is retreating from Xingye to Fancheng, and then to Xiangyang, and then here to the Long Bridge, and to Jingling. And Lord Guan is actually somehow went to Jiangxia and became a reinforced force here. So basically, Xuan De is remaining here, and this is the Redcliffe. So the big fight is happening here. So you can see this purple line is a boundary or the border between the Shu Kingdom, Cao Cao's kingdom, and Sun Quan's kingdom, the Wu Kingdom. And this blue line is the Great River. So basically, Wu Kingdom relies on this great river to defend Cao Cao and other enemies for a very long time. I think one thing very interesting in this particular chunks of chapters is talking about the three factors for any king or anyone to win. That is first the heaven, and second the earth, and lastly the people. So IO3, the number 3 is indeed the magical number because we'll see finally when everything settled down there are 3 kingdoms. And there are 3 factors for everyone to win. That is heaven, earth, people. And coincidentally, the 3 kingdoms correspond to the 3 factors you need to win. So we can say perhaps heaven belongs to the Wei kingdom, belongs to Cao Cao, because when the empire is declining, when the emperor is too weak to hold his own power, Cao Cao appears and takes the mandate of the heaven or pretend to acting for the mandate of the heaven, acting for the emperor to command all the warlords or all the generals. So Cao Cao took the factor of heaven to win. And then the Wu kingdom, as I just pointed out, they relies on the great river to defend all the enemies. So they relies on a lot about the earth, how the geographical formation provide with them. And the Shu kingdom is a little bit different because they don't have the heaven, because they didn't appear at that time to take the command by the emperor. And they don't have the advantage of the earth because they don't have the geographical obstacle to protect them. But one factor that is very important, and the Shu kingdom or Liu Bei or Xuande take it very well or control it very well, is the people. If you read the novel carefully, you will see the idea about how important people is to us Shu kingdom is mentioned again and again in the novel. I think in the discussing about heroes, that chapter we already saw Cao Cao said benevolence and righteousness are 2 very powerful weapons to Xuande. Exactly here we see the power of benevolence is all the generals are so loyal to Xuande, and he is able to recruiting so many civilians to abandon their own home but to follow him to flee. So he just has this power to, you can say, control people or gather people together and make them all loyal to himself. That is the weapon of benevolence for Xuande. And actually in the novel, the sentence is said, the human factor is the key to any undertaking, said it by Xuande. So he himself realized human or people is a factor he need to grasp and is the thing he can rely on to win over the other 2 kingdoms. And also, I want to mention a little bit about Zhao Zilong's fight at the steep slope bridge. So eventually, we are meeting this strong, powerful hero. And I think this fight, this specific fight at the steep slope bridge, is a little bit different from what we've seen previously. So I think last class we mentioned how important to form a team of different heroes, how important to fight together and to have some conflicts, but eventually they will cooperate and target at the same target. But Zhao Zilong's fight is so different because he is a hero fighting on his own. So that is the most heroic moment you can think of for a hero or a superhero. So he is that kind of hero who has a lot of good traits such as bravery, loyalty, honesty, all these kind of good things. And also I just want to mention he is the one who lived long enough to witness the rise and fall of the 3 kingdoms. So we'll see him again and again in the novel, and basically he never loses any fight and he always wins. I think it's very interesting if we put Zhao Zilong and Lü Bu side by side and see how a powerful hero is depicted in actually 2 different images, and why we readers get these kind of 2 different impressions about one type of powerful hero who always fight on their own, but the impression we got for them is different. And one more thing is Liu Bei's or Xuan De's acting. So there's one very famous thing in this specific chapter, I think in chapter 42, that is when Zhao Zulu fights so hard on the steep slope bridge to trying to retrieve Xuan De's mistress and his son, but his lady just commits suicide because she hurt so much and just cannot stand going back, riding the horse and going back with Zilong. So she commits suicide and handed to Zilong, the only son, Xuan De's only son. So Zilong trying to protect that son carefully and holding that baby to fight against all the enemy, and eventually successfully escape from Cao Cao's army and goes back to Xuan De's camp. But what Xuan De does is pretty surprising. So we see actually in the novel it said Zilong untied his arms and looked inside. The infant was still asleep. The infant refers to Xuan De's only son. Safe and sound, he announced happily. Fortune smiles. He handed Ado is name of the baby, carefully to Xuan De, who flung him to the ground the instant he received him. For the sake of a suckling like you, I risked losing a great commander. Zilong wept the child off the ground and prostrated himself, saying through his tears, "If I cut my heart out here, I could not repay your kindness to me." I think this thing is as weird as it can get, because you cannot imagine how a father received the son, his only son, who was being rescued by the huge general with so much effort, so much blood, and he just threw him onto the ground. And that idea, I think the idea of Xuan De is that I treasure my general, I treasure my commander much more than my only son. And I think from this passage you can see Zilong actually buys it. He thinks, yes, I cannot repay you as much as I can because you just treasure me that much. I really moved by your action. But I mean, even from the contemporary or even from the pre-modern perspective, this action itself is a little bit more dramatic. So I think it's a very interesting, we can discuss that in class, but I think it leaves to you to decide whether you think Xuan De is acting here or he is kind of perform the benevolence to some extreme. And lastly, finally, we meet Zhuge Liang's capability. We saw how Zhuge Liang or how Kong Ming is able to assist Xuan De to claim his own territory. That is the famous scene when Zhuge Liang is being so eloquent when debating with all the officials from the Wu Kingdom and try to convince them to fight against Cao Cao. So first, he confronted all the officials in the Wu Kingdom who proposed to submit to Cao Cao, and basically the main argument he uses that my lord Xuan De is so benevolent and he holds righteousness so high, he will never submit to a traitor like Cao Cao. He is the orthodox, he is the only king we should follow. And you guys, if you want to submit to Cao Cao, that is because you treasure your own life more than righteousness. You're just afraid to die, things like that. And then he persuades Sun Quan, the king of Wu, to unite with Xuan De. And finally, he even persuaded Zhou Yu, the great general of Sun Quan, to fight against Cao Cao. And he uses one more very interesting way to persuade Zhou Yu. You should find it by yourself when reading the novel. But I think the way Zhuge Liang trying to manipulate people's thoughts is very interesting, and it kind of demonstrated to us how powerful a official can be, a scholar official can be. Because previously we basically only saw how the warriors worked in the battlefield, how they become powerful, how they fight against each other, how they win. But now we see actually how a scholar official can be powerful at the same time, using their eloquence, using their ability to convince people, to persuade people. So I think this is very interesting and sort of a turning point in the novel, when we will see more and more the strategy part of the battle and of the war. Okay. So I think that's about it. I hope you enjoy the novel. And for Thursday, I will upload another video on the movie, introducing the movie. And I hope you enjoy both the movie and the novel. And let's have a very interesting discussion next week. So don't forget to leave your comments down below, and I will see you again in my next video. Bye!